Something that's really important for you to consider this year with your food plot plantings and every year is what is your base amount of food plot acreage that you need to get you through the hunting season. Because ultimately the hunting season, the deer that you attract, the deer that you hold, the deer that you advance to the next age class, the deer that you want to hunt will all be affected by the food and the cover types that you have going into the hunting season. So that base amount of food. On this property right here, we have about 40 acres, about 30 of it's cover. And we're trying to increase the cover out in these fields here by adding some switchgrass pockets, some switchgrass lines, and to actually hold some deer out here. But bottom line is, we have about 2.5 acres of food here, and that's about our base amount of food. And what I mean by that is that food lasts until about January, sometimes into February, and then it's gone. So we can have food that we plant at the end of the summer. It grows during the fall, it's available during the fall and into the winter, and we can hold those deer and define that afternoon movement in this location. Now there's a few things that can cut into that base amount. You know, that base amount works great here. Now one, if we have poor fertility, we're not going to get the volume of food out here, and we're going to obviously need more. At the same time, weeds. That brings us into the weeds are really critical. I've been on client properties where there's 8 to 10 acres of food plots, and at least 60% of those plots are in weeds, so really they have 4 acres of food plots. So I want completely weed-free food plots, which you can see we've been working on the weeds a couple times. When we plant in early August, we won't have to worry about those weeds, so that's one way. Now finally, if we had some summer food sources here, if I had beans here, for example, if I had clover in portions, then even if that food didn't cut into what we actually want to have in here during the fall, it would throw a huge supply of does and fawns and even some bucks here during the summertime, which that in itself is not bad. However, we're surrounded by huge ag fields with high production alfalfa and beans. So the deer have all they want here. In fact, the deer that are typically here during the hunting season are out there somewhere. And so if those deer were here waiting for our fall food plots to come in and to be planted, they would attack that young forage like an army. And so we can create a huge amount of volume by not having the deer here. So that's our base amount of food, and I'd like you guys to think about that. We can get away with 2.5 acres here by not having the food here during the summer, by making sure we're addressing the pH and fertility levels, and by also controlling our weeds. We hit that base amount, and that's what we can use to control the deer herd in the area, hunt the deer herd in the area, and to actually build a quality herd. Your base amount of food. What's your base? It's going to be different than ours, especially if you're in northern Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. You need a little bit more food in those areas, less food in ag land, but it all boils down to that base. That is that lowest hole in the bucket. If you're plugging that hole first, you're going to be well on your way to creating a quality herd and hunt this season.